Hello. We're recording a kid's thoughts on Ukraine.
What do you think is going to happen in Ukraine, and what timetable do you see playing out?
Well, unfortunately, I think the Ukrainians are fighting well. It's gone to attrition, a war, long lasting, but kind of like I don't think the First World War is a good analogy, but it is attritional war. I think the Ukrainians just might run out of supplies, stuff basically, even though the Western countries and NATO are supplying them. Russia, although has done somewhat well, has a lot of resources. Ukraine doesn't.
Can you give us some examples, some facts to back that up?
Well, think about it, the artillery guns, the artillery cannons. I heard that they're running very low on ammunition, the Ukrainians. And because all the and their weapons are older, so all of the shells were made by the Soviets in Russia. In Russia, they obviously can't buy shells from Russia now because they're at war with Russia.
Right.
And now they're waiting for a Western supplied weaponry that can have Western supplied ammunition.
So you mean they would have to kind of invent new weapons or make new types that they're not used to making?
Well, they'll have to get Western support, and that'll take well, they do have Western support, but for the West to make these weapons on a mass scale, it is going to take some time. And the war is moving, changing, basically every day. The conflict has getting worse in the amount of death tolls by the day.
Okay. So basically, it's a weapons issue in your mind?
Not really. It's just general resources. The Russians can have more manpower than the Ukrainians. The Ukrainians have a lot already mobilized.
What are the size of the armies in comparison?
I believe before the war, it was 1,014,000 Russians I saw on a video somewhere, and it's 200 to 400,000 Ukrainians. The numbers are very hard to get.
So at least twice as many Russians.
Yes, well, 5 times. But
likely 5 times. Okay.
But you can't have everyone can't be in one spot at one time. You know.
That's true.
Yes.
So war of attrition, and you think eventually Ukraine will lose?
They will have to sign a ceasefire. I'm not sure if they'll be fully militarily defeated, like the Russians storming into Kiev.
So
Kiev.
What do you anticipate the agreement being when the ceasefire is signed?
Yeah. The Ukrainians will have to cede territory. They've basically cut off all of the sea access, well, all of the coastline except a small area bordering Moldova. And there were 2 roads in, and one of those roads has been crippled because a major bridge on it was completely destroyed, and it will take it a long time to be rebuilt.
Okay, so the Russians are focusing on capturing land that has access to the ocean.
They have been, yes, but they're also focusing on the largely Russian-speaking Donbass area, which there have been multiple offensives on, some with success, like with the fall of cities like Lysychansk and Severodonetsk. But still, that buys Ukrainians time. Those battles took weeks just to take a few cities.
Time to do what, though?
Inflict heavy casualties on the Russians. But sooner or later, the Ukrainians can't stand up to this.
Okay.
But for now, they're holding.
So, what implications do you think this is going to have as far as ways that outsiders could use this information to their advantage?
Well, it showcased modern tactics of war, like tanks. 1 or 2 people with a missile launcher can go and destroy a whole tank. And with the Turkish drones, they're the Bayraktars. I don't exactly remember. They've been just destroying the tanks on the ground and the slow-moving ground vehicles. So that certainly is showing something. Also, it has influenced countries like Sweden and Finland, who were previously very neutral countries, to attempt to join NATO. And I believe they are.
Okay. So, do you see any way that people with this knowledge, or people predicting that Ukraine will have to cede territory, could make a financial gain from that knowledge?
I don't believe so.
Interesting to think about.
Yes. They were supposed to hold elections that in major, referendums in major areas that they've occupied of whether to join Russia or puppet governments to be installed. I'm not sure which is going to happen. But the only really major city they captured is Kherson, near Crimea, where they previously occupied in 2014.
Would you say anyone with factories or any kind of land ownership in the Donbass region should cut their losses at this point?
Well, the majority of people who can escape have already escaped. That's the first thing that should happen.
Okay.
And the battle has gone on for probably 2 months now in the Donbass. Anyone near there should evacuate quickly, too. But it might be too late.
Okay. Any business or stock market implications you can foresee?
Well, they were a major exporter of grain and sunflower seeds, I believe. There's been a shortage of, I believe it was sunflower seeds, because the Ukrainians haven't been able to export them. They've been trying to find ways, like by sea or by air, to send the supplies elsewhere, but they haven't found a way yet.
So do you think if other countries produced more grain, it could be used, since Ukraine isn't going to be able to export as much?
I mean, some countries will have to step up the exporting a little bit. Yes. It's also been rumored, I'm not sure that any of this is true yet, that the Belarusian army will invade Ukraine. I highly doubt that, because their army is only 65,000 against 400,000 Ukrainians. If anything, it would just to be a diversion for the Russians. The Belarusian people had previously been opposed to the war, even though some Russian troops invaded Ukraine from stations in Belarus. And their leader Lukashenko, who has a large amount of ties to Russia, has also stayed neutral in the conflict.
So if Russia does take over territory in Ukraine, what do you think the next target would be?
Next target would probably be I doubt it will be, because they're all NATO, but it could be the Baltics. I highly doubt that, though. But this has influenced a lot of countries to join NATO.
People who don't want the same thing happening to them.
Yes, like the Finns were invaded in the 1930s by the Russians, and because that they previously stayed neutral. But now, seeing the Russian aggression again, they've decided to finally join an alliance, NATO.
Can you foresee a time when the Russians could invade a formerly Western European country? Western European country? Like, we think of Finland as Western European.
Well, I highly doubt it, because that will draw NATO into war. But some people are starting to question a lot of things, that the U.S. will actually support them if there's an invasion. That's the question. Now, I doubt Putin will try, but we don't know. Well, thank you everyone for watching. I hope you have a good evening.